Police have identified the woman found brutally murdered on the Cross County Parkway. The nightlife influencer was found dead behind the wheel. She'd been shot multiple times on her way home from work.
Right now, police are investigating the death of a Houston social media influencer, Alexis Sharkey. The 26-year-old was found dead on the side of the road this weekend, just a few miles from her home. Her mother believes she was murdered.
On November 28, 2020, the lifeless body of Instagram influencer Alexis Sharkey was found naked on a highway. An autopsy confirmed she'd been murdered. But after a long investigation, police discovered her killer was someone so close to her, no one would have ever seen it coming. Here are 5 times influencers died too soon.
Tonight, many in the hip-hop and nightlife communities are mourning the death of 33-year-old Ariela Mejia Polanco.
Her body was discovered Sunday morning. She was a nightlife influencer with a 500,000 followers.
On March 6, 2025, Langosta posted this photo of her brand new 2025 Mercedes G63 to her Instagram page. But just a couple of months later, it would be the very same car she would get killed in. Now you might have seen Ariela online, being her unique self or showing off her amazing physique. But behind all that, she was so much more. Born on May 15, 1992, Langosta, whose real name was Ariela Mejia Polanco, grew up in the Dominican Republic. When she was old enough, she moved to Upper Manhattan, New York, where she inserted herself into the city's nightlife and cultural scene. From there, her path into social media and entertainment started to take shape. But it wasn't until 2018 that she got her big break, and that came when she launched her Instagram page under the handle Ariela Langosta. At first, it was just comedic skits, dance videos, and lifestyle posts. But her vibe clicked with people, especially within the Dominican and wider Latin communities in the US. She had this bold style, fearless personality, and magnetic energy that drew people in. By 2025, she'd built up over 570,000 followers. And of course, the nickname La Langosta, Spanish for the lobster, stuck. Also, keep in mind that at that point, it wasn't just a nickname anymore. It became her brand in New York's nightlife circles. Outside of Instagram, she worked as a dancer and waitress at popular spots like Icon New York, Opus Lounge, and Starlets of New York. And in 2023, her career took a big jump when she landed a spot in Tekashi 6ix9ine's music video for Wapai. That alone boosted her visibility big time, partly because she and 6ix9ine were close friends. They were often seen together, photographed at events, and their public friendship definitely gave her more spotlight, though it also tied her to his messy, controversial reputation and his gang affiliations. Because one time, La Langosta was kidnapped by members of the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, the same gang 6ix9ine used to be linked with. They mistook her for one of his girlfriends, but after realizing they had the wrong girl, she was set free. Thankfully, she wasn't hurt. And while people warned her that getting mixed up with the wrong group could potentially be dangerous, La Langosta kept doing her thing her way. Until someone, or maybe some people who might have wanted her dead, finally came knocking. Around midnight on August 16, 2025, La Langosta posted these videos to her Instagram story, tagging her current location. Then, around 8 a.m. the next morning, her lifeless body was found in that G-Wagon on the eastbound Cross County Parkway near Broad Street in Mount Vernon, about 20 miles north of New York City. The Westchester County Medical Examiner confirmed she'd been shot multiple times, and her car windows had been shattered with bullet holes. Clear signs of a violent attack. She had left Icon around 4:30 a.m., and investigators believe she was ambushed on her way home. Police later confirmed this wasn't some random shooting, and it very well looked targeted. A 25-year-old man was also found shot nearby and hospitalized, though it's unclear how he was connected. And being that this happened recently, the investigation is still very much active. Westchester County Police are leading it with help from state and federal agencies. But while no arrests have been made, this is exactly where her boyfriend, Nate Cartier, comes in. Authorities are exploring multiple possibilities as a motive for the attack. Maybe Ariela wasn't the target, maybe it was mistaken identity, or maybe her boyfriend Cartier was the real target. Some reports online say Cartier might have been linked to an investigation into a criminal network called Los 50 Bloke 14, which only deepened suspicions of gang-related motives. On top of that, some believe it could be tied to Ariella's past kidnapping or even her association with 6ix9ine, who's been labeled a snitch ever since his 2018 racketeering case in cooperation with the feds. So, as for what really happened to her, honestly, your guess is as good as mine. What's certain, though, is that La Langosta left a mark on New York's nightlife and hip-hop scenes. Tributes poured in, starting with 6ix9ine, who mourned her on Instagram stories, calling her his sister, the Queen of New York, and saying the city would never be the same without her. Cardi B also posted a quick tribute, calling her Dominican Pretty. Icon New York, where she worked and the last place she was before death, shut its doors until August 21st, honoring her as a brilliant, humble soul. But all in all, her death has brought up bigger conversations about how dangerous nightlife fame can be, the risks influencers face, and especially how women in the industry often get caught in the crossfire of other people's battles.
How did this beautiful social media influencer end up dead at just 26 years old? Alexis Sharkey posted hundreds of photos and videos for her Instagram followers.
An autopsy reveals she was strangled.
On November 28, 2020, some city workers in Houston came across what they first assumed was a mannequin lying on the side of a service road. The body looked staged in such an unusual way that it didn't immediately register as real. But when they looked closer, they figured it wasn't a mannequin. It was a woman, and she was dead. Before long, authorities identified her as 26-year-old Alexis Sharkey, a social media influencer whose life had suddenly been cut short. Her body was discovered only a couple of miles from the home she shared with her husband, Tom Sharkey. A medical examiner would later confirm she had been strangled to death, officially ruling the case a homicide. But that left two unanswered questions. Who killed Alexis Sharkey and why? After graduating at the top of her class from the University of Pittsburgh in 2012, Alexis Sharkey took a gap year to travel, before eventually settling in Odessa, Texas. There, while working at Twin Peaks, she met Tom Sharkey, an oil field consultant nearly 20 years older, and the two quickly fell into a whirlwind romance, documenting their adventures online. Not long after, Alexis left her job to join a hair company named Monat, and with her mix of charm, determination, and a solid science background, she rose to executive director by 2020, while building a strong Instagram presence, positioning herself as both a businesswoman and a mentor. In 2019, Alexis and Tom married and moved to Houston, where she built a new circle of friends through a mobile app. They stayed in constant touch through a lively group chat, a detail that would become important later. Now, although they were newly married, Alexis rarely mentioned Tom or brought him along with friends. In November 2020, she vacationed in Tulum without him, then turned her attention to the holidays. She told her mom she'd miss Thanksgiving, but promised to come home for Christmas, though her family hadn't seen her in nearly a year. And then on Thanksgiving morning, November 26th, Alexis texted her mom holiday wishes. And instead of spending the day with Tom, she went to her friend Tanya's, later heading to a bar with another friend and then staying out until 3 a.m. After leaving, Alexis texted Tanya saying she was coming back to grab her stuff. But since Tanya was already asleep, she didn't reply. Still, Alexis returned, picked up her car, and supposedly went home. The following day, November 27th, Black Friday, was expected to be busy for Alexis and her Monat business team. Her co-workers began posting sales content bright and early, but Alexis was unusually quiet. That was strange, considering she was usually the one encouraging everyone to stay active on social media. Later that day, around 5:30 p.m., a message popped up in the group chat from Alexis's phone. She asked if anyone wanted to go out that night. Most of the girls were already tied up with holiday plans, so they agreed to meet the next day for a proper girls' night. No one realized it then, but those quick texts would be the last time anyone ever heard from her. She never posted to social media again after that. Hours later, close to 11 p.m., Tom reached out to John, the boyfriend of one of Alexis's friends, asking if he'd seen or heard from her. Instead of texting back, John immediately called him. During that 45-minute call, Tom explained that Alexis had gone missing. According to him, they'd gotten into an argument, and she stormed out of the house barefoot, climbing over their fence before hopping into a black car that picked her up. But here's where things start to get messy. Tom's version of events changed several times as the investigation unfolded. At one point, he claimed Alexis had left wearing sweatpants and sneakers. In another, he said she didn't have her phone with her. Later, he said she did, and he even tried tracking her with an app. In that story, he supposedly followed her around in a black car until he lost the signal. Tom later explained that after he couldn't find Alexis, he pulled into a gas station just to clear his mind, calm himself down, and figure out what to do next. He sat there for about 2 hours before he started reaching out to people, asking if anyone had heard from her. Meanwhile, the following day, Alexis's friends were chatting in their group text, making plans for a girls' night. Everyone was active, except Alexis, and at first they thought it was strange, but when they noticed she hadn't posted anything on social media either, their concern grew. Yet things only really hit when Alexis didn't show up for their scheduled movie night, because that was completely out of character for her, and that's when they knew something wasn't right. They ended up calling Alexis's mom, who already knew something was wrong since she'd been in touch with Tom. Before long, her friends filed a missing person report and began sharing posts online to spread the word. Tragically, while loved ones were still searching and hoping, city workers in Houston had already discovered Alexis's nude body. She'd been dumped by the side of a service road, only a few miles from where she lived. At first, there were no signs of a struggle, no visible injuries, and no immediate cause of death. It wasn't until January 2021, 2 months later, that the medical examiner officially ruled her death a homicide by strangulation. However, not long after the news broke, details about her marriage began surfacing. One of Alexis's close friends revealed that she'd confided in her about serious issues at home, telling her that the marriage was falling apart and that she was genuinely scared for her life. According to this friend, Alexis had seemed petrified. It also came out that she had been preparing to divorce Tom, and they'd already separated their finances while divorce papers had allegedly been drawn up, ready for signatures. But probably the most shocking thing of all is that there was another guy in Alexis's life. During her trip to Tulum, Mexico, Alexis met a Houston-based DJ named Sebastian. The two hit it off right away. Friends gave different accounts about whether they actually hooked up during the trip, but everyone agreed there was definitely chemistry. In fact, after Thanksgiving dinner with her friends, it was Sebastian who picked her up and took her to a bar, where they stayed until 3 a.m. So whether they were officially dating or just casually hanging out is unclear, but something was definitely brewing between them. Nevertheless, once the autopsy confirmed strangulation, investigators began focusing more closely on Tom. In his only interview with the media, he painted a very different picture of their relationship. While others saw Alexis as upbeat and carefree, Tom described her as often stressed and emotional when she was with him, saying he was the one who usually had to comfort her. He also insisted that the night she disappeared, he simply told her not to drive while drunk and denied they had argued. Police then turned to electronic forensics, digging through the devices of everyone Alexis had been in touch with during her final days to piece together a clearer timeline. Still, suspicion circled back to Tom. Many of Alexis's friends came forward, saying she'd often confided in them about his controlling and abusive behavior. Some even claimed he had a habit of strangling her for fun, which made them believe that maybe he took things too far, possibly during a sexual encounter, and accidentally killed her. Tom, of course, denied everything, including the claims about the divorce. But his actions didn't help his case, because after repeatedly avoiding police, he finally agreed to meet with investigators in August 2021 to provide a DNA sample. Still, he never showed up. But by late September, a warrant had been issued for his arrest. Authorities stated that Tom was the only person who had the motive, means, and opportunity to kill Alexis.
Police are calling this a tragic series of events for both families involved. We're learning today that Alexis Sharkey's husband, Tom Sharkey, was wanted for her murder. However, as authorities attempted to make that arrest last night in Florida, he took his own life.
On October 5th, they tracked him down to Fort Myers, Florida, where he was staying with his daughter and her partner. But just after 1 a.m. on October 6th, when Tom learned police were about to arrest him, he ran upstairs and shot himself in the head. In the end, his suicide left behind a chilling confirmation of what so many already suspected. Tom had killed Alexis. What a sad case.
Oh, I ain't get to say about Udi. Then Mark done got quiet. Where he at? He right here. He getting mad. He don't like the truth coming out.
Whoa. Just like the case of Alexis and Tom Sharkey, Shamarcus Jamil and Duces Dior, another influencer couple, also lost their lives to the toxicity of their relationship. But in their case, their final moments were caught on camera and broadcast in real time. It all started in June 2025 when a bunch of their videos start blowing up on TikTok. The clips weren't even from their own accounts, so people couldn't really piece together the full timeline. On top of that, the woman had this super thick Georgia accent, which made some of what she said hard to catch. Still, you could clearly tell she was upset. And while her partner was trying to hold it together, you could see he was mad too. Now, at first, it just looked like another messy social media fight. You know, one of those toxic couple moments that randomly show up on your feed at 2 a.m. But after a while, people began to realize that this one was a little different. The woman was 27-year-old Zaria Khadija Carr, better known online as Duchess Dior. She was a mom of two, a former corrections officer, and she even had her own hair business in Statesboro, Georgia. On her Duchess Dior Facebook page, she had around 35,000 followers, where she'd post about being a mom, lifestyle stuff, and her relationship. Her husband, 36-year-old Shamarcus Jamil Carr, also had his own following. He ran a page called The Frenchman with about 44,000 followers. He branded himself as a French bulldog breeder and often posted snapshots of their life, like maternity photos and moments together as a couple. But things begin to get spicy when you hear how they actually met, because at the time, Zaria was actually working as a corrections officer at the prison where Shamarcus was locked up. Then, after he got out, he moved in with her and her young son. Before long, she got pregnant, and eventually, they got married. But that marriage was doomed from the very start. The Facebook Live that later went viral pretty much summed it all up. It kicked off with Shamarcus accusing Zaria of cheating, while he admitted on camera that he had been unfaithful in the past too. And then for almost an hour, they went back and forth, throwing accusations of infidelity at each other.
I go through the messages and shit, see her telling him, oh, I'm gonna call you back. I'm on the phone with his mama. Long story, what the fuck give you the right to go
I ain't fucking you. You fucked her.
Okay, so
I didn't fuck
so what did they give you the right to go talk to him?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
You
so
lied.
At one point, Shamarcus made a crazy statement, saying that this was the kind of thing that could get somebody beat up.
Run your mouth and beat your ass now.
You did.
Keep running your mouth. I told you sit back in the damn office. She don't want me to tell it because she knows she's slime.
Oh my kid, you slime. You talk to that nigga bitch.
Okay, good. Let me tell the story. Bitch.
Oh my kid, you try you slime. You that nigga bitch. And you talk
Again.
to bitch from I got all the screenshots.
I'll be back, y'all.
Right after he ended the live stream, people started guessing the argument had carried on off camera. And it turns out they were right. Shamarcus popped back on live again, this time in a different shirt, puffing on a cigar and looking way more worked up than before.
We come back, so the doctor tell her when she get her results, the damn folks tell her she got herpes. So I'm thinking in my head that you gotta have an outbreak, you know what I'm saying?
In this second live stream, Shamarcus accused Zaria of putting some kind of spell on him, claiming it was messing up his money, and even talked about filing for divorce. At the same time, Zaria was live on her own Facebook page, and during her stream, she brought up a guy named Udi, someone Shamarcus was allegedly messing around with. She basically implied that he was bisexual, which set him off. He ended up hitting her and even threatening her life. Out of nowhere, both of their streams cut off at the same time, and people watching began to fear the worst. But here's the chilling part. Shamarcus popped back up live again, claiming Zaria had just shut down her stream and ran off completely naked, with no clue where she was. Meanwhile, the truth is that he had shot her dead.
Lost it. Beat her. She said I beat her for 3 hours straight. I can't recall. Now here it is. She done called the police. No, she ran out the house. I really let her go. She ran out the house.
He didn't let me go out treatment.
Butt ass naked. Ran to the car. Jumped in the car. I left the keys in the car. Went to the police station. Butt ass naked.
Not even 2 hours later, around 9:30 that night, police got a call about a domestic disturbance at the couple's house on the 100 block of 5th Avenue in Twin City. When officers from Twin City PD, the Emmanuel County Sheriff's Office, and EMS showed up, they found Zaria inside the home, unresponsive. Sadly, she had been shot and was pronounced dead right there at the scene. On top of that, their 2021 Dodge Challenger was missing from the garage. So that set off an immediate alert, and by 11 p.m., deputies tracked the car down in Wayne County. But when they approached, they realized Shamarcus was motionless inside. He had shot himself in the head, ending his life right there.
Patay matapos barilin habang naka-livestream ang isang babaeng social media influencer sa Mexico.
23-year-old Valeria Marquez was shot dead on camera at her salon in western Mexico.
May 13th, 2025, Valeria Marquez was at her salon in Zapopan, Jalisco, Mexico, streaming live on TikTok like she usually did. But that day felt a little off. Just a few hours earlier, this masked guy had shown up at the salon pretending to be some delivery man. He wasn't alone either. Another guy was waiting outside on a motorcycle. And according to a woman who was there, the two said they had a very expensive gift for Valeria, but it had to be handed to her personally. Later, when Valeria finally got to the salon and heard about it, she went live on TikTok and admitted to her audience that she was a little freaked out by the whole expensive gift situation.
Güey, a lo mejor me iban a matar, güey.
No, era a decir un regalo, pero no sabía que no era como transparente. Y te
Regalo costoso.
Y aparte...
En una hora regreso. ¿Y en qué venía? ¿En moto? Me iban a levantar. Okay.
She also said that one of her friends, who we'll get into more in just a minute, had told her earlier that some kind of fancy gift was on the way. The friend even suggested she hang around and wait for the courier to come back.
Hoy andaba haciendo unas cosillas y me marca Erika y me dice, oye bebé, es que te traen algo y que no sé qué, pero pues que te lo quieren entregar a ti. Y yo, pues más o menos llego como en una hora. Y ya dijeron de que, no, es que mejor me espero a que llegue ella porque es muy costoso.
But as we know now, the only gift they had for her was the cruel curse of death. Still, why would anyone have wanted her dead? For context, Valeria, born and raised in Mexico, first popped into the spotlight back in 2021 when she won the Miss Rostro beauty pageant. From there, she built herself up online, posting makeup tutorials, beauty tips, and fashion inspo, gradually growing her following to over 113,000 on TikTok and around 500,000 on Instagram. However, she wasn't just an online influencer. Valeria also opened her own salon in 2024 called Blossom the Beauty Lounge, right in Zapopan's Jardins del Valle neighborhood. Sadly, that same salon would end up being the very place where she would be killed. Now, on that dreadful day, around 6:30 in the evening, Valeria was live streaming from inside her salon. She was sitting at a table, holding this pink stuffed pig her friend Vivian De La Torre had given her. Her long blonde hair was tossed over one shoulder as she chatted with her fans, even mentioning that gift on the stream. Then, just a few minutes later, a man's voice could be heard off camera asking for Valeria among the women in the salon. She told him it was her, and then muted her mic. But when she looked up at him again, he pulled out a gun and shot her twice, once in the chest and once in the head. She collapsed right there in her chair as blood pooled on the table. The live stream didn't stop though. It kept rolling until a woman, whose identity hasn't been revealed, suddenly appeared on screen, quickly showed her face, and then ended the broadcast. Paramedics showed up soon after, but it was too late. Valeria was pronounced dead right there at the scene. Authorities quickly classified it as femicide, a gender-based killing, and sadly, this is a harsh reality in Mexico. According to the United Nations, about 10 women are murdered there every single day. In 2023, the femicide rate was 1.3 per 100,000 women, which tied Mexico with Paraguay, Uruguay, and Bolivia for the fourth highest in all of Latin America. Nonetheless, here's where things get even more complicated. Almost immediately, rumors started spreading about whether her death was tied to organized crime. Outlets like Milenio and Newsweek reported that Valeria may have been romantically linked to Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, better known as El Doble R. He's considered a high-ranking member of CJNG's elite group, which is one of the cartel's most violent factions. Plus, Ruiz Velasco has a very dark past. He's been tied to the 2012 killing of Daisy Ferrer Arenas, whose body was dumped in a sewage canal, and also the 2017 murder of influencer Juan Luis Lagunas, aka El Pirata de Culiacan, who was killed after insulting CJNG's leader, El Mencho. Reports suggest that Ruiz Velasco became angry when Valeria flaunted expensive gifts from her fans online, especially a post she made just hours before she was killed. On top of that, Valeria herself had claimed she'd been getting death threats, and she even said that if anything happened to her, people should hold her ex-boyfriend. But here's the twist. The Jalisco prosecutor's office has said Ruiz Velasco's name doesn't appear anywhere in the official case file, and they claim there's no solid evidence connecting the murder to cartel activity. Still, the public isn't buying it. Social media has been demanding a deeper investigation, accusing authorities of not wanting to poke the hornet's nest that is CJNG. And then there's the location. Zapopan isn't just any city. It's been flagged by the U.S. Department of Justice as a major hub for money laundering, tied to drug trafficking. More than half of the real estate and business development there is reportedly linked to illicit funds. So, could Valeria's salon have been backed by crime groups, or was it just pure coincidence? Honestly, at this point, no one really knows. What we do know is that her death sent shockwaves across the entire country. Just 3 days later, President Sheinbaum had to step in, publicly promising that her security team was on the case and that those responsible would be brought to justice. But so far, nothing has actually been done, and a lot of people are starting to fear that nothing ever will.
A fitness influencer and her date were tragically gunned down after a dinner date Sunday evening in Fontana.
Reports say Zamora was on a date at a sushi restaurant in Fontana, California, when she was tracked down by her estranged husband. Reports say he killed her and her date in the parking lot.
On June 21st, 2025, fitness influencer Gloria Zamora was murdered by her estranged husband. And according to Gloria herself, he just couldn't handle her new life as a fitness coach and TikToker, especially the attention she was getting and the way people admired her physique. But was that really enough reason for him to want her dead? 40-year-old Gloria Zamora was a mom of 7, yet she somehow managed to balance her life at home while building a career as both a fitness coach and a TikTok personality. On TikTok, she had more than 90,000 followers, and on Instagram, she had nearly double that with 171,000 people keeping up with her posts. Her pages were full of workout routines, motivational clips, and little windows into her real life. She lived in Paris, California, and people loved her for her positive, uplifting vibe. However, behind the smiles and energy, Gloria was struggling. She was in the middle of divorcing her husband, Thomas Alberto Tamayo Lizarraga, after 15 years of marriage. According to Gloria, things had been rocky for a long time. She even talked about it on a podcast called Horizon, where she shared that Thomas was insecure about her growing success and didn't really support her fitness career. She also said he often tried to hold her back from reaching her goals.
He's putting this fear and thinking you're not going to amount to nothing. I'm the one that's done everything for you. Of course. You know,
yeah,
so
you built me, sure.
You built me,
Sure,
yes.
sure.
You know, like without me, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
Just 5 days before everything went down, on June 16th, Gloria shared a clip from that podcast on social media with the caption, "With husbands like these, who needs enemies?" And it wasn't random. Instead, it fit right into the story she'd been putting out there for a while. That her husband just couldn't stand to see her happy or successful. And Gloria decided she didn't want to be quiet about it anymore. She was open, honest, and unfiltered about their problems. Later, her daughter Jaslyn would confirm what many already suspected. Thomas had been abusive in every way. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. Gloria had finally reached that point where she was ready to break free. But just as she was on the verge of moving on, he ended her life. That night, she had gone out to dinner at a spot called Suma Sushi in Fontana, California, about 50 miles outside of LA. She was with a man named Hector Garduno, a 43-year-old father of 4 girls. Now, some reports described it as a business dinner to talk about a new fitness venture. But others said it looked more personal than that. In fact, many believe Hector was more than just a friend, that he was someone Gloria had been seeing romantically. Either way, whether it was business or pleasure, they'd been at the restaurant for about an hour, laughing and enjoying themselves. until things took a terrifying turn. Around 9:40 p.m., Thomas showed up at Falcon Ridge Town Center, where the restaurant is located. He had a gun, and without saying a single word, he opened fire in the parking lot, shooting both Gloria and Hector. The shots were so loud that an off-duty San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputy, who just happened to be driving nearby, heard them. He quickly turned back, saw Thomas still holding the gun, and shot him at point-blank range. Thomas died right there in the parking lot. Meanwhile, Gloria and Hector were rushed to the hospital, but heartbreakingly, neither of them survived. And since this case is still so recent, police are trying to figure out how Thomas even knew Gloria would be at that restaurant that night. There's no clear answer yet, but a lot of people believe the messy divorce pushed him over the edge. There are also reports that Gloria had tried to get a restraining order against him, but it's not confirmed if that had actually been approved. What is clear is this: it was a brutal act of domestic violence, one that took the life of a mother, a role model, and a woman who was finally starting to live for herself. And the saddest part? If she had known how far Thomas was willing to go, maybe, just maybe, she could have found a way to stay safe.